If this is the last video you see on this channel for a while, it's not because I've given up or I'm too busy watching Cobra Kai Season 3, it's simply because I've decided to become a karate master! I wish. There's just no way I have that kind of discipline to do all the moves and the training and the painting and the waxing on and the waxing off. I don't have the patience for that. If I'm doing that kind of work, you're paying me. You're paying me to do that, or I'm just not going to do it. I'd much rather sit down and, watch a Cobra Kai and watch someone else do that. And then watch them be like, psh, psh, and, learn the things. I'm really more of a Dimitri. I didn't really like Dimitri this season. Kind of found it weird how I kept, kind of siding with Hawk. Then towards the end, I'm like, but Hawk is clearly becoming, the main villain of, the children. Which I'm finding super compelling. I love the idea of, having lots of sympathy towards, one of our main villains. That's always really exciting and interesting. But, I just don't like Dimitri. I don't know why I started talking about Dimitri. He's literally the only thing I don't like in this show because I love this show and Season 2 was amazing. Once again, Johnny is easily the best part of the show. It is still so baffling to me how well they can make the villain from the 80s original film, the bully, just so sympathetic and so interesting. And I love this arc of this character now where he's got his old sensei back and he's like, well, I'm trying to do my second chance and I'm trying to make the dojo not all evil and old school Cobra Kai, but he's got his old Cobra Kai teacher there and he's trying to give him a second chance while giving himself a second chance, give Cobra Kai a second chance, and the whole season I'm just waiting for it all to kind of either fall apart or for that awesome moment where Cobra Kai becomes kind of something that Daniel LaRusso would be proud of. And I was like, it's going to go either way, and I kind of can't tell because the show is called Cobra Kai, so I would be kind of shocked if Cobra Kai kind of fell into the hands of the evil John Kreese. But that's exactly what happens, and it's so crazy. That last moment after the one-shot epic school battle that was literally the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life. Just so awesome, so fantastic, and then ending on that horrific moment of Miguel falling, potentially breaking his back, almost dying. God, I hope he's not dead. If he's dead, I'll be so sad and annoyed. But I imagine he's not going to be dead, because that would just be too sad and awful. Probably I don't know, in a wheelchair for a little bit, maybe the rest of the series. That would also be very sad. He's really awesome when he's doing all his kicking, he's punching. He's maybe my favorite character. I really, really like him. Don't really like Robbie, but I love the whole idea of, since Season 1, when he did that big win, and he was a bit dishonorable and all those things, it felt like a loss. And so this time, he does the honorable thing. He doesn't lay the final punch on Robbie, but then Robbie goes bang, bang, bang. And of course, he falls, he gets injured, and we get this really amazing moment of Johnny walking back into Cobra Kai, and you see there, Hawk, our villain character now, and all these other side villains. Tori, evil Sam. Sam gets a villain, like Miguel and Robbie were villainous to each other in the first season, and the whole time I'm like, I see her kind of going into the evil side when we get the inevitable Johnny/Daniel, we were rivals, but now we're teaming up. That classic punch for a bit, but then they're mates. This season, with having Daniel have his own karate dojo, we get way more of him kind of doing the whole karate thing. He's slowly losing his marriage in the process, which I found very funny, how much he clearly cared more about karate than his wife. And then suddenly he's like, oh, actually, no, I love you, wife. I'm just, this rivalry. I'm so angry about karate. And I just kind of love that, how it kind of brings out a bit of a douchebag side of him. Even though I do find him far less compelling than Johnny, that sometimes I keep forgetting that a lot of Johnny's students, due to how he was training them and not realizing he was becoming the sensei he never wanted to become, and, that cycle of, bad teachers become bad teachers thing that was going on in Season 1, now he's trying to shape and change that, but some of the characters have gone too far, particularly Hawk, and I just found that so kind of interesting and compelling and fascinating, whereas all of Daniel's stuff is just so, we gotta be the greatest karate people in the world. We're just so awesome. And there's something almost a bit obnoxious about that at times, where it totally works in an 80s Karate Kid film, and it just feels pure and brilliant and amazing in that. And I think Mr. Miyake, that actor, really kind of brings something to that. And it just has that generic black and white. These bullies are clearly bad guys. But now we've brought so much nuance and color and flavor to everything, and all the characters. Even John Kreese gets scenes where he's like, oh yeah, I've just been lying about being a cool, badass, bang, bang, shooty, shooty warrior, man. I've actually just been going from hovel to hovel, being very sad for 10 years. And suddenly you're like, oh my god, am I going to start feeling sympathetic towards him? And of course that twists and turns back, because he is going to probably be our big villain leading forward when we finally get, hopefully in Season 3, that inevitable Daniel and Johnny team up, where he's like, Actually, remember that time in season 1 where you're like, I don't give a shit how you wipe the window. Actually, you wax on, you wax off. There's Mr. Miyagi. And then Johnny will be like, oh, I've learnt the ways of the Karate Kid. And, all the things that'll be like all, fan servicey. But now it's all juiced and sweet, sweet character juice. Considering one of the main aspects of the original Karate Kid was Mr. Miyagi, and Daniel was like a surrogate father-son, master, trainer, sensei, trainer, karate kind of situation thingy going on. And I love how this season Daniel is training his rival's son, surrogate father, son situation going, and then Johnny is training Miguel, who's his surrogate son. And at the end of the season, his son fights his surrogate son, and his son almost kills his surrogate son over his arch rival's daughter. It's so teen high school drama, soap opera nonsense. It's so cheesy and campy at times. There's like so many times where it's just so over the top teenage. It's like watching Degrassi or something like that. And suddenly they're just doing the most crazy karate action fight scenes. I hope I'm not the only one that just kept being overwhelmingly shocked by how fantastic the choreography is. How amazing it is. That final fight that felt like it went for about 25 minutes in the high school with all the characters, all the character dynamics, all the things just playing out in this huge action set piece was just spectacular. It was overwhelmingly fun. It was overwhelmingly well choreographed. I felt like it was just stunning to behold. There were so many points that felt like a one-shot. At one point, I'm like, has this whole thing been a one-shot? No, it can't possibly be. And then to end on such a shocking, horrifying, huge moment that really shook me. Like, I didn't really think this was the show that was going to almost kill a character and have, they're doing all this karate fighting. At one point, I'm like, dude, if this happened in my school, like I saw all the people with their cameras just like, this is the craziest thing that's ever happened. And I'm just like, dude, if that happened in my school, no one would ever stop talking about it. It'd be all anyone talked about for forever. But also, every single person who laid a punch in all of those fights, in all those circumstances, every single one of them expelled. Expelled, no questions asked. But then I was like, oh, but this is a show that's going to have like no consequences to this big thing. Like, maybe one of them will be expelled and it'll be like one of the villain characters, like the Tori character. But then they were like, actually, no, maybe Miguel's going to be like paralyzed or dead. And I'm just like, wow, this show is really going all out. And I think one of the things, which isn't really fair at all, but one of the things that kind of made me so shocked and surprised at how good the fighting is one, most of them are like actual children, right? Like I presume some of them might be like 20, 22, classic, TV show, just kind of aging them up a little bit for the actors. But some of the very young people, like this isn't 30, 35-year-old people who have trained for karate for like 20 years or whatever, but also a YouTube show, like the first 2 seasons is like YouTube. I'm going to be very curious to see if season 3's budget and just karate gets even better, because at this stage it's kind of spectacular. But maybe it's just because my expectations for a YouTube series is kind of lower, which I guess isn't really fair, but also I don't know what else is a YouTube series. And also they're children and they're like not bad actors. It doesn't feel like they just got people who do karate but can't act. Like most of them are really, really great. I think Robbie kind of like is sometimes a bit like, he's fine. Like, I don't know, but I think maybe that's just that whole circumstance where I'm like, just talk to your dad. He wants to be a better man. I know he was bad for that 16 years, but he wants to be a better man. Screw Daniel. And I know he's Karate Kid, but I just find him less likable and interesting. Like, he's just like, I don't know. There's something about him where it's just like, we've got to do it the right way. Where Johnny keeps struggling. It's like, no, we've got to do it like the tough macho way. But not, like, oh, if you're going to do that tough macho stuff, that still makes you a pussy. But yeah. And he's just kind of like slowly trying to figure out how to be like the good man he wants to be while still kind of being that tough, like macho guy. And I just find that kind of, I don't know, that contrast and that juxtaposition and that kind of struggle as a character really compelling and interesting. And also I just love that he was the villain, but now he's the main character and I love him. And Daniel's just like, boo, you're boring. I don't like you. I don't like you as much. Except for when him and Johnny are like at each other's necks, but then they're like, oh, actually, that waitress should have written it down because she got something wrong, and they both chuckle and, have a bit of a fun time together. There's been one scene each season where they have a bit of fun while drinking together, and I love that. It is also absolutely wild to me how many people they just keep getting back. Like, getting John Kreese back is just so awesome. Like, he appeared at the end of last season, but him coming back as like a full main character, and at the end of this season being like, I am Cobra Kai, rah! And all like the people there, and they're like, ooh, Cobra Kai, rah, rah, rah. I was just like, okay, this guy wasn't like a one and done in season 2 kind of character to kind of, force Johnny to realize how bad Cobra Kai was going to become if he kept going down that route. And because he knew at the end of season 1 that he wanted to take it back to a bit of a Mr. Miyagi style, but like he still can't do it fully because he hates Daniel and that rivalry. So having John Kreese there to kind of push him that way But then at the end of this season, it seems that John Chris has completely pushed him out. So he's not even part of Cobra Kai anymore. So, I don't know. I just found that crazy. I'm like, oh, okay. So this guy's going to be like, not just a season 2 villain, but maybe the villain of the whole show. I love those tiny little moments where like Hawk kind of becomes Eli again for a few seconds talking to Dimitri. And he's like, oh, there's a new doctor. Oh my God, it's a girl. That's awesome. Blah, blah. All these little things. But then just like that kind of, just being teased so hard for so long and being so downtrodden that he just kind of keeps reverting back to Hawk. And like that we get that flashback at one scene before he gets his hair all red. And I just found that really, really interesting and compelling. And I just love kind of how nuanced this villain is, where in season 1 it was kind of funny and hilarious that he put his hair up like that. And he's getting a bit more violent and aggressive. Then by the end of the season, you're like, oh wait, is he taking it too far? Has he become the bully that was bullying him? Full cycle situation going on? Yes. And now this season, he's gone full villain. And at the end of the season, he seems to be now the main macho bad guy in Cobra Kai. And that's just awesome. It's really kind of sad and heartbreaking, but also I feel like a couple of times Dimitri took it way too far. In fact, I actually dislike him so much I remembered his name. First season he was just that guy I found kind of obnoxious and talked too much and wasn't that funny. This season he's just really, really rude, and I get that he's sad at Eli for not being his friend anymore, but he's just doing it all the wrong ways and keeps provoking Eli in all these really horrible ways, clearly pushing him into Hawk more so, even though I guess he's trying to make him Eli again, but instead he's, destroying Eli forever and creating Hawk fully formed with wings. I mean, he had wings before, but, now redder, more angry wings. Remember these 3 guys? They're all bald old men, but they're riding motorbikes. And I'll just keep cutting back to shots of Karate Kid being like, it's these 3. I know you can't tell who they are now because they're bald and they look nothing alike. And you barely remember those characters that were in that movie, but it's them. It's like, wow, they just keep finding people. This is the legacy sequel that keeps on giving. And yeah, just overall, exceptionally exceptional. And I cannot believe how quickly I'm watching a season. Like, I take like a day or 2 break between a season, and then I just watch it in a day. I cannot stop. It's so easy to binge. I'm loving the 20 to 25 minute runtime. Just so good. Like, it just feels so tight and compacted. It does feel like each episode's doing something. But unlike so much Netflix stuff, the whole full season package feels like just a nice package where each episode is doing a thing, but they feel like little stepping stones up into a big arc that is the season. Whereas so many Netflix shows, I'm just kind of like, cut this 3 episodes, cut half of that episode, slice this down. Geez, this could have just been a movie. Whereas this, I don't want to say this as a movie. I love that this is kind of 2 movies per movie. I'm just loving it. So season 1 teased us with the Johnny versus Daniel fight again, and this time we just got it. He rocks up, he's like, where's my daughter? And it's like bang bang, fighty fight, punch, just so exceptional. But I love how it wasn't like a full fight, and it was really like, oh, this is just another setup, another little tease for how good the fight can be. That opening to the finale was just so exciting, seeing them face off, showdown, and having Johnny finally have his son come back into his life, at least for now, and finally he can kind of show his son that he loves him and whatever, and he's trying to be better, and he's kind of awesome now compared to how he was not so awesome before. And that last bit as well, where he's just got the phone, he's like, damn phones! Also, Johnny's just inability to understand technology, unable to stand Tinder, and just all the things just continuously throughout the show is just very funny. I think the actor for Johnny is just so much funnier and charming and kind of charismatic, and just he knows what he's doing with this macho guy who's trying to do better, and he doesn't understand technology, and he's kind of coming into the world like almost a fish out of water situation at times. It's kind of insane. Whereas I think Daniel, a little bit weaker of an actor, maybe it's just a far less interesting character, and that's what I'm kind of feeling there. But yeah, at the end where he grabs the phone, he throws it, and he's like, I'm sad and I'm drunk and I'm leaving my sweet ass looking Cobra Kai car, and I'm walking into the sunset, and then you see Ali. His friend messaged him on the phone. I hope they get that actress back. I would love to see those 2 finally bond and be like, actually, we're good friends now. There's no more rivalry. We're both Mr. Miyagi, punchy punch. Let's fight Cobra Kai. But then she comes in and it's like, oh no, a threesome love triangle thing. Because that would just be so silly and dumb. Because a lot of this show is very silly and dumb, and so many times I'm just like, this is a very silly and dumb show, and I'm loving literally every second of it. Except for that time that Daniel was talking to Dimitri and they were referencing Game of Thrones a lot. it's just, I don't know what it is. It was just, maybe it's because I was so obsessed with Game of Thrones. Now I kind of hate it. But now House of the Dragon's back, so I'm like, oh, am I falling back in love? I better not be, because I can't do that to myself again. But yeah, every time someone in a show references the show Game of Thrones and just like talks about it, and he's like, oh, Samuel Taylor's actually pretty cool. He killed a White Walker. He's actually really cool. And all this stuff, I'm just like, just cringe. Just pure cringe. I try not to say the word cringe too much, because I feel like that word can be overused, but it is pure cringe. Everything else, though, good. Thanks for watching, guys. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and comment below. I would love to know what everyone thought of, I was going to say Karate Kid, but it's Cobra Kai Season 2.